Welcome back to our discussion of JavaScript. This time we're going to take a look at the JavaScript from an external script point of view. And we're also going to look at some JavaScript errors, syntax errors, and see how JavaScript recovers from them and how the browser behaves in the presence of JavaScript syntax errors. All right, I've modified my HTML. This time including, as you can see, the script element. It's the same element, but it modified by using the attribute src. And then it still has to have a closing tag because the script element is defined as having content, but the content here is empty. Notice the content here is full of JavaScript. So when this script is encountered, the browser dishes over to the JavaScript parser and interpreter and starts running the JavaScript. Essentially the same thing happens here, except the browser will pull in this external file here. And let's look at what's in here. We declare the variable I here to be equal to 0. Let I is equal to 0. Then two alerts pop up, one using I and one using not, just a string. We'll go back to here. And then we have these script tags I've still left in here. I've modified them a little bit inside the browser. And notice here. So let I equal to 1 or equals 0. That's declaring the variable again twice. Let's see how the browser, we'll take a look at that. And that'll say first script element and then second script element. So let's refresh the page and we'll see what happens. So this is our external script running, and we can see why, because it was included here. I did the header element. It's parsed right away, and it starts executing right away. There it is. No page content has been loaded. There it is, the second one. And then second script element. Notice here. So we can infer from that this let I equals a 0 did encounter a problem because we didn't see this or this. So this syntax error, declaring a variable twice, stopped this script element from running. However, it recovered by the second script element and started running again. Indeed, the second script element now, and it still sees that variable I that was declared over in the external script, and that's fine. We see then the nature of this programming language in the browser environment. The philosophy here from HTML on: keep running. Show as much content as you can, even if it's bad HTML, bad CSS. And now we see syntax errors in JavaScript. Yes, it will stop running a script element, but it will continue when it encounters the next script element. That goes for external files as well. So if you have complex HTML and you include scripts hither-tither inside your complex HTML, it's very hard to follow. Very hard to read what's happening because any one of those scripts can declare variables that become global variables that then will cause problems with other scripts if they don't include them. And because the majority of the system may be running, it may be only occasional scripts that, let's say, do this, and therefore could be very obscure. You don't see I anywhere here. Encounter an error, and that part doesn't function, but the rest of the parts do. That can be very difficult to debug. Let's take a look at this. So we saw no errors here from the standpoint of the user, though. The user just, from their perspective, that dialog just didn't appear. Might not notice anything's wrong. Let's look at the developer tools, Control-Shift-I, and bring up the developer tools. We've seen elements and how we can inspect elements here from the standpoint of how they're styled and how the HTML is laid out here. But there's also something, there's a whole bunch of other tabs up here. Let's take a look at the console tab, and there it is. This is really the JavaScript console where we can interact, see errors in JavaScript, but also interact with the JavaScript on the page. We'll develop that topic a little bit, how we can actually code in JavaScript from that command line and interact with it. So again, refresh. Let's clear this. I'm going to clear this console here so there's no errors here. Refresh the page, and here we have it. The script is running from the external source. Now it encounters the error, and the second script is running. So contrast that with what you know about how Java or C# languages encounter syntax errors. They don't even, those are compiles. It's separate from running. Compile is separate from running. And that doesn't even generate object code. So it won't generate a new program if it encounters any type of syntax error. Fix the syntax error and then run. That's not the JavaScript philosophy. It fits in with the browser HTML philosophy. Show as much content as you possibly can. Interpretation too is happening on the user machine, away from the developer machine. So doubly hard to do, really, doubly hard to diagnose this type of thing. So I've commented out our internal scripts here, and I'll clear the console and refresh the page. And we see the script is running now as before. No, this time no errors. Actually not. Oh, I didn't save the HTML. Let's do that. Save the HTML. It refreshes, and we don't see a new syntax error. We see the other one unless we clear it, and we can see our fresh and errored console. Here it is. So let's just concentrate, with this commented out, let's concentrate just on this script element then. This is not a good location for the script. It's generally felt not. It's in the header file. It's in the header section. It's a script tag right there. It's encountered first, so it starts executing. Well, what's JavaScript's job? It's to interact with the DOM. That's really its world. The browser is its computer, and the document object model of the current page is its input and output. It exists to interact with the input-output of the document object model. Well, if the script is included in the head section and interpreted and run, well, the document object model doesn't even exist yet because the body element hasn't been encountered by the HTML parser yet. So yes, the script element does not belong like this in the head element, and it's often you'll see this, and it's not bad advice to put the head element or the script element right down here in right before the end of the body. However, I think there's something better, and I'll show that right now. The defer attribute on the script tag. This will cause the script is seen there and included, but the actual execution will not execute until the page is loaded. So that's a good way to do that. I also want to take a look at one other thing here. I want to put a little bit of script in between these tags here. That is, as the content of this element, and see what happens. Do I see the alert high here? So we see what the script is. Oh, let me save the page too. So we wouldn't expect to see it until I save it. Let's do that. And we see that, and this is ignored. So it's one or the other. You can, if the source element is included as an attribute, they'll include it, but then you can't also use the content of the element to create more scripts that are paid attention to. They're ignored, one or the other, the completely internal one or the completely external one. So we've seen external scripts, and for the most part, this is the preferred way to do it. You don't want to scatter scripts around in your HTML file. You also want to defer the load of your HTML file with the defer Boolean attribute so that it won't run until the DOM is created. And yet it's still neatly in the head element where I think most people would think those types of things belong. Join me again and we'll continue our study of JavaScript.